Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the September 7th Town of Wareham Board of Selectmen meeting. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, 4 selectmen present this evening, as well as the town administrator.
And absent is Mr. Slavin and Mr. Bowen.
Yeah, Mr. Slavin is
Yep.
dealing with the holiday at present.
Mr. Teitelbaum, can you do the pledge, please?
Sure. Okay. Trying to lean back and not fall over. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Announcements, Mr. Muniz.
He's muted.
Mr. Muniz, you're muted.
Here we go. Is that better?
Yes, sir.
For some reason, I can't get my video to focus. Can you see my whole face or just part of it?
No, I can see you.
Oh, I can only see half of me, but that's okay.
Let me just double check, please. However, I'm being told from a text message that there is no sound being broadcast.
From me, it must be from
no, from WCTV. Could you check that, please, WCTV? We'll just hang on a second.
Just a minute.
Thank you.
Just show me it's all set.
Okay, now it's coming in. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Muniz, go ahead with your...
yes, the Wareham Cultural Council has a poll on their website. So if they've asked me to ask the people from the town to visit it and look at it and let them know what we would like to see here in town and what areas they'd like to see the money spent on. And so that would be, you go to the Wareham town website, Wareham Cultural Council, and you'll see the poll there. Thank you.
Thank
Hold
you.
on a sec. We just got another text saying no sound.
No sound again, Mr.
He's working on it.
Thank you. All right, we'll just hang on for a second then. I'm going to go to you, Mr. Teitelbaum, when the sound comes back for announcements, sir.
Yep, don't have any.
You don't have any?
No announcements.
Okay.
On and off, so.
I'm still being told we have no sound. Nothing. Okay.
We might as well wait then. We really can't do any business, can we, until we do have sound?
That's correct. So I'm just waiting to have them tell me that we're all set.
Now there's no signal, but they must be working on it. That's why.
And it's both sets of, yeah. Okay, we're talking. I will talk so that if you can hear us, you can let us know that you can hear us, but obviously you can't hear us. So I will keep talking. Still can't hear us.
Did you see Jeannie Babcock is inviting Laura Rosenthal?
Yes, sir.
Co-chair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the sound came on and then went off again.
That's right.
I'll be right back.
Thank you.
Might just be doing the executive session if this doesn't straighten out.
Nothing. For somebody who uses Comcast, showing no signal and no sound, and the person on Verizon is showing me nothing. Can't hear, but can see.
Is that through Zoom or is that through the
That's through
cable
TV.
TV?
TV.
Oh, wow, what a shame. Peter. Peter, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sam,
No.
Sam Cunningham died.
Who did?
Sam Cunningham?
Oh, Sam Bam?
Yeah,
Nah. He was a tough runner.
sure was.
You know, they had some crazy talented teams. They
should be
just
good.
never could put it
Should be
together.
good.
You should be good. Okay, hold on. I'm going to just say something like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I'm hoping that the people who are watching will let me know that they can hear me, and apparently not. What are you getting, Mr. Titlebaum? Are you getting any message that I'm still getting can't hear you?
I'm getting hearing you.
Okay. All right, hearing you. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me check with a couple of other people who've been pinging me.
They said it's.
Okay, just hang on a second. We got.
Okay, I got somebody else saying it is working now.
Okay, great. I have Mr. Muniz already gave his announcement. Mr. Titlebaum has none. Mr. Tropiano has none. Am I correct, sir?
Oh, yeah, because mine was Jim's.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
hey, do you have, excuse me, Mrs. Whiteside, do you have the do you want to read the address, Patrick?
Let me see what I got.
I do have it, but
It's posted on the website too.
It says it's on the website under Cultural Council. So,
okay.
Yeah.
you know, all it says, it doesn't tell me anything else.
Okay. I have a couple of announcements. The Wareham Free Library has new hours effective today. It is Monday, 9 to 5, Tuesday, 9 to 8, Wednesday, 9 to 8, Thursdays, 9 to 5, Friday, 9 to 3, and Saturday, 9 to 3. And also we have been invited to a Eagle Court of Honor for 2 young men on September 12th. Mr. Tropiano, who apparently was a Boy Scout, will be attending and representing us. We already have some certificates in the office. And that's all I have.
Reply.
I'm sorry?
Got a reply from them today.
Okay, great. So those are mine. 708, okay. We will go to citizens' comments. And I don't see anybody raising their hand. So seeing none, we will go back to board's comments. Mr. Muniz.
I don't know if the rest of you has received a letter from Ms. Campbell today in the mail related to accessibility for handicapped people and sidewalks and whatnot. I don't believe we have a committee on that. I'm not sure how we handle that. So it is, and also, you know, she mentioned things about street lighting and other things, which, you know, most of it affects all of us. And so it was like a 3-page letter, 2.5 pages. And, you know, so I read it, I got in touch with her, contacted her. She's also the young woman who is going to be walking the, to raise money for people that are handicapped. What was the name of it here? And she did send us some information on that. She didn't ask for any donations on this or anybody to sponsor her, but it's a 26-mile walk. She'll be walking it because she herself has a disability. So if you didn't get it, if you receive it, take a look at it. Maybe we can discuss those issues and possibly try to find some resolve or some method to address the issues that affect not just them, but everybody related to accessibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you please forward that to Mr. Sullivan, who's in charge of the day-to-day affairs, please?
Yeah, well, yeah, this would be something we could do too, but I don't know if he received it. Did you receive that?
I did receive it.
Okay, so he has it. And it came into they mailed it to us individually. So you may be getting it, but thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tropiano, any comments?
No, I'm okay for right now.
Mr. Teitelbaum.
Yeah, just a few. You know, last week we were talking about, you know, the topic of who should be keeping track of whether people are current on their ethics examinations that we're supposed to do every 2 years and submit to the town clerk. And it was said last week, or the week before actually when we met, that the prior clerk used to individually reach out to people. I didn't recall that happening, so I went back and I checked my email. What I did find was in 2013, the department assistant, who at that time was Roxanne Barbosa, sent out a reminder to all boards and committees. And the same thing happened in 2016 and 2017. And that was done by Jenna, who's now down in inspectional services, when she was the department assistant in the clerk's office. So, you know, to the extent that a comparison was made between then and now, it might have reflected not so well on the present clerk. I personally wasn't getting tipped off by the prior clerk, and nor do I think she should have. I don't want that construed as, you know, some kind of criticism of that. But it kind of leads me into a larger point here. You know, over the past few months, we've had town board members threatening employees' jobs, you know, sort of belittling them in meetings, making accusations, you know, and the conduct is not becoming of people sitting on boards when you act like that. You know, we went through this kind of thing about 15 or 16 years ago when people decided that the town employees were the enemy, and all that did was get us lit up in court by 5 or 6 people who were wrongfully terminated. It hurt the business reputation of the town. It hurt our standing locally. It made it difficult for us to hire employees. And I'd hate to see us backslide to those days. You know, we can have robust policy discussions. We can disagree. We don't have to agree with the town employee. But, you know, to belittle, call out, and threaten their jobs, that's a bridge too far. And if people keep doing it, I'm going to start talking about the who and the what at these meetings. So I'm just putting that out there. Thank you.
Can I add one thing to that? Do you mind?
Go ahead, sir.
So hypothetically, they shouldn't be talking to individual town people anyway. Jarek is in charge of day-to-day. If you have an issue with anybody, they need to speak to Derek. It's up to him to decide what is appropriate, what isn't appropriate. And I really have gotten, I'm with you, Peter. I've gotten very frustrated with individuals going directly to department heads and so on. And that has got to cease. It is clearly in the charter it's not allowed. It is clearly policy of the board that it's not allowed. And no one else is supposed to do it on any other board as well. This has got to stop. Mr. Sullivan runs the day-to-day operations of this town, and he will continue to run the day-to-day operations as long as I sit on the board. And Peter, I'm glad you brought this up, and I'm glad to piggyback on it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, I mean, some of what I'm saying relates to interactions that are happening in meetings where, you know, you may have town staff involved in the meeting as part of the meeting. So, I mean, it's all across the board. There's no one single source of this, unfortunately, which, you know, is kind of worse in a way, because if it were just, you know, 1 or 2 people and a couple of things, you just chalk it up to, you know, somebody's having a bad day, but there's an awful lot of bad days being had out there. So you know, people need to get it together. Thank you.
Thank you. I have comments, but because of the time, I am going to hold on to them until after we have concluded at least one of the dog hearings. And I have asked Mr. Teitelbaum to run the dog hearings, as he has the experience and he does them very well. And so.
Okay, well, first, the first one up is the Gilbert, Don Gilbert, 48 Blackmore Pond Circle, West Wareham, Mass. Hearing. I see there is somebody named Dawn here. I assume that is Dawn Gilbert. So we'll need to let her in. We have Cheryl, the animal control officer. We have Eva Golden, the also animal control officer on this. I guess, or is she DNR still? Either way, we need to bring Eva in. We need to bring Dawn in. And anybody else who wants to testify in this hearing, if you use the hand raising function next to your name.
Looks to be all set.
Well, I'll name the names off just in case something's going, well, I've got a number here, 962-288, Anthony Frangiatis, Chloe Shelford, well, she's media, we know that. Claire Smith, I don't know if she's here for a dog hearing, but probably not. Frank Mulligan's media. Heather, I do not know. So Heather, if you wish to speak, let us, Heather's with Jenny, right?
She's suicide, yes, sir.
Okay, so I think we have, let me just scroll down and make sure I'm not missing anybody else. Tom McManus, I think Tom would have let me know if he was going to testify. I believe Mrs. Slavin and WCTV. So I think we have everybody here. Can we have a motion to open the hearing, please?
I make a motion that we open the hearing for the dog hearing for Dawn Gilbert.
Okay, we have a motion. And Patrick, did he fade off? Second?
Sorry, was muted.
Okay, so motion by Judy, seconded by Patrick. Roll call vote. Jim?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Myself, yes, 400. The hearing is now open. I will read the complaint letter into the record that was sent from Ms. Golden, Department of Natural Resources, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, complaint of vicious or barking dogs. Mass General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 157, August 11th, 2021. I hereby make complaint hereon that the dogs owned or harbored by Don Gilbert, 48 Blackmore Pond Circle, Wareham, Massachusetts, 02576, are dangerous by reason of aggression. On August 4th, 2021, at approximately 11:40 a.m., Mr. Brendan Malley was bitten in the left calf while he was walking along Blackmore Pond Circle. He stated that he was walking in the road in front of 48 Blackmore Pond Circle when two boxers passed through the electric fence surrounding their owner's lawn and began harassing Mr. Malley. The two tan boxers in question, a 7-year-old male named Thor and a 7-year-old female named Envy, ran into the street and chased Mr. Malley. He states that one of the two boxers bit him in the leg, but he was unable to identify which of the two bit him as they were both chasing him. Mr. Malley was able to enter the house across the street to escape the attack. He suffered minor injuries to his left calf. Mr. Malley informed me that he has observed both boxers escaping the electric fence in the past. Although it remains unclear which dog bit Mr. Malley, on January 2nd, 2020, Thor escaped the electric fence at Mrs. Gilbert's previous address and bit a passerby in the calf while she was walking in the road. It is clear that the electric fence is not suitable for these dogs and that they have a history of aggression toward people walking in front of their owner's property. I am requesting a hearing to discuss further actions Ms. Gilbert may take to secure her two boxers. This complaint is made under the penalties of perjury. Eva Golden, Natural Resources Officer, Wareham Department of Natural Resources, Law Enforcement Division. So I'll turn, this is an adversarial proceeding, just so people understand. Effectively, the Animal Control Officer and the Department of Natural Resource Officer are sort of the prosecutors. The dog owner here is the defendant. And so there's testimony taken, there's documentary evidence entered if anybody has any. We even accept character witnesses as to dogs, believe it or not. So it's kind of like a little mini trial, just for those who are unfamiliar with what's going on here. So I will now turn to the Animal Control Officer. Actually, no, I got to swear in the witnesses. That would be Cheryl, that would be Eva, and that would be you, Ms. Gilbert. So if you'll raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Okay, you're all sworn in.
Mr.
I will,
Titlebaum, they're all muted.
yeah,
Okay.
I can see their lips moving, so I'll accept the swearing in.
Thank you.
But yeah, when we call upon you, you'll have to unmute. You know, everybody I'm sure is familiar with Zoom by now. So I will first hear from the Animal Control Officer and the Department of Natural Resources, whichever of you would like to go forward. And if you would like to provide any additional information you have, any narrative reports, so on and so forth, now would be the time to bring those into evidence. So if you'd like to start, Eva.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to read my narrative from the report from Mr. Malley being attacked. So on August 4th, 2021, at approximately 11:40 a.m., I, Natural Resource Officer Golden of the Wareham Department of Natural Resources, was at the maintenance shop when I received a report of a dog bite that occurred on Blackmore Pond Circle. I called the reporting party to check his status and verify he was safe, and then drove the animal control van to his location. Upon arrival, I was met by the calling party, Brendan Malley, who stated that he was walking along Blackmore Pond Circle when two boxers passed through the electric fence surrounding the owner's land at 48 Blackmore Pond Road and began harassing Mr. Malley. The two tan boxers, a 7-year-old male Thor and a 7-year-old female Envy, allegedly have a history of passing through the electric fence at this location. Both boxers live at this location and are owned by Ms. Gilbert. Mr. Malley states that he was in the street trying to escape from the two dogs when one of them bit him in the calf. The injury appeared minor in nature, however, he did have broken skin as a result of the bite. Mr. Malley stated that he had to run into the house across the street to escape the attack. I went to the residence of Ms. Gilbert and observed a white cable running along the outer perimeter of the lawn, as well as a beware of dog sign posted at the end of the driveway. I did not see either of the two boxers outside. I knocked on the door and attempted to make contact with Ms. Gilbert, but was unable to make contact with any party at the residence. I left a tag on the door explaining the nature of my visit and requesting Ms. Gilbert to call the animal control phone number. The following day, Animal Control Officer Gorvet Dill was able to make contact with Ms. Gilbert and explain the situation. Animal Control Officer Gorvet Dill issued a 10-day quarantine to both boxers as it was unclear which of the two bit Mr. Malley. Both are up to date with their rabies vaccinations. I supplied you the photograph of the calf. It does appear to be a minor injury. However, it is still a broken skin injury. And I have a statement from Mr. Malley that I did not provide you before because he didn't supply it to me until last minute, but I do have it if I may read that to you from the victim himself.
Okay, I'll hold the picture up to the camera here. I don't know that people are going to be able to really discern very much. I see what looks like a small scrape, perhaps right here.
Yeah.
But it's kind of indeterminate. I don't see a laceration or a puncture wound on there. Just for the record.
So unfortunately, the quality of the photograph is.
Yes, if you can go ahead with what he sent you.
Okay. So he writes, "Dear hearing attendees, I'm writing in regards to an incident that occurred at Blackmore Pond Circle on August 4th at approximately 10:50 a.m. While out for a walk, I noticed the two boxers that typically sprint aggressively toward any passerby, but stop at their electric fence as I began to walk toward the house. As I walked closer, they sprinted at me. However, despite having collars on, ran right past their electric fence wire and at me. Both ran toward me and one bit my leg while the other started to growl and get ready to join. I was able to get the dog off my leg and back away slowly until they lost interest. I then called the police, who sent Officer Golden to assist. Luckily, I was not severely hurt. However, I am a larger man. Blackmore Pond is a place where many of my family members, friends, and neighbors walk and relax. There have been many incidents where young kids that make up these groups have come back talking about these two boxers and how aggressive they were behind the electric fence. It is clear now this electric fence does not work. I'm thankful they attacked me instead of the little kid, because had they attacked a child, I'm sure this would be a much more grim situation. This is not the first time someone has had to address these dogs this summer. And when others have spoken with the owners, they were met with, they're not friendly dogs, quote, sorry, they're not friendly dogs to some, I'm not sure what to tell you, end quote. At the end of the day, their owners have neglected these large aggressive dogs throughout the summer. The culmination of this irresponsible behavior left me attacked, and I hope that measures can be taken to ensure this never happens again, especially to someone they would severely injure. I'm writing to ensure I'm on the record stating how dangerous of a situation these boxers present because of lack of ownership and responsibility from their owners, signed Brendan Malley.
Okay. Just one more thing, and then I'll turn it over to questions from the board. In your complaint letter, you recite another incident as occurring on January 2nd, 2020. Can you tell us more about that incident?
Yes, sir. I actually also have the narrative. This is from Director Buckminster. He was the one who took the call. If you want me to read that, I may.
Yep.
All right. So this is from Director Buckminster. On January 2nd, 2020, at approximately 12:35 p.m., I, Gary Buckminster, Director of the Department of Natural Resources, responded to the area of Station Street for a reported dog bite. Upon my arrival to Station Street, I was met by the victim, now known as Janice Dean of 100 Chestnut Street in Bedford. Janice Dean advised me that she walks the area regularly, whereas she works at Springborn Smithers Laboratories and is familiar with the dog that bit her. As she was walking on the town-maintained dirt road public way, the male boxer known as Thor, owned by Don Gilbert of 39 Station Street, Wareham, Massachusetts, was able to get outside of the electric fence and exited the private property located at 39 Maple Spring Road. The male boxer approached Janice Dean and bit her on the left leg outer portion of the calf. Janice Gilbert allowed me, I'm sorry, that's a typo, but Miss Gilbert allowed me to view the bite area where I observed 3 well-defined teeth marks that broke the skin, bruising within the bite marks. I asked Janice Dean numerous times if she would like EMS. Janice declined and would follow up with her primary care doctor. After gathering Janice's information, she walked back to work located at Smithers Laboratory, and I went to the dog owner, Don Gilbert. I advised Don Gilbert that our dog had exited the wireless control canine fence and had been an individual walking. Don Gilbert provided me with all documentation of town licenses, as well as confirmed that Thor, the male boxer, was current with the rabies vaccination expiring 6/27/2020. Don Gilbert was advised that the dog would be under a house-controlled quarantine for the required 10 days and explained the requirements of monitoring the dog. ACO will follow up with the quarantine documentation on January 3rd, 2020.
Okay, thank you. I'll start with questions from the board. Jim, do you have any questions?
No.
Thank you. Patrick?
No, I don't have any questions of these people right now. Thank you.
Okay. Judy?
No, thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any either. Now, Ms. Gilbert, do you have the opportunity to cross-examine Ms. Golden if you'd like?
Okay,
Well, in other words, do it now that she's, made her testimony. This would be the opportunity for you to cross-examine her.
Okay.
I'll ask you for your version of the story afterwards, if you have one.
Okay, I was told that she was supposed to contact me to talk to me about the incident, and she never contacted me once.
When you say she, who are you referring to?
Miss Golden. I spoke with the animal control officer, Cheryl, and she told me that Miss Golden was going to be contacting me about the incident, and I never was contacted. I didn't even know what date or what time it happened. I wasn't given any information until 2 weeks after after this happened, that I got a letter in the mail.
Okay, and what was the letter in the mail? Was it the complaint letter?
Yes.
And was it a notice from our office telling you the time and date of the hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any, you've made that observation, I guess. Do you have any questions for Ms. Golden or Ms. Gorviat-Dill?
Yeah, on the complaint, it says that the person ran into the neighbor across the street's house. And I spoke to the neighbor across the street, and she said that she's never witnessed my dogs outside of my yard, my electric fence. And she states that she wasn't home at the time to let anybody into her house.
Okay.
I'm presenting the information.
And she said that, she was the witness that my dogs have never left the yard before. I asked her, and I don't even know the woman. I just went over there and introduced myself and said, I just have you ever seen my dogs outside of the electric fence? And she said, no, never. And she said, they can contact me and I can tell them. She said, I'm willing to speak, and my dogs do not go outside the electric fence.
Okay, so that's your take on this, that this incident apparently did not happen, or you're unaware of any of the facts about it?
I don't think it's the facts about it. I wasn't even notified. And when I talked to, like I said, when I spoke with my neighbor, she has never witnessed my dogs, and she lives right across the street. She has a clear view to my yard. She said she has never seen them outside of my fence before. And the first incident that you were talking about back in January in 2020, that woman said, even she told me, I spoke with her because the natural resource officer gave my phone number to her so that we can contact each other. And she said that it wasn't the dog's fault. The dog didn't go after her aggressively. She said that she scared the dog. She felt like she scared the dog.
Okay.
Because she was all wrapped up because it was winter and she had a mask on. And
okay, Cheryl, I'll give you an opportunity to speak with her after I give the board an opportunity to examine her on her direct testimony here. Jim, questions?
Do you feel your dogs are aggressive dogs?
I don't. My dogs go to Petco. They go to cookouts with me. My children have friends in and out of this house. They're not aggressive dogs.
Have you ever seen them like be aggressive to anybody, like people in the neighborhood or?
No, I mean, they do their job. Like if somebody walks by or they bark, they're dogs. That's what they do.
And do you have a fenced in area for them, or just the electric fence? Or?
I have the electric fence, which I did go out because I've had boxers for 16 years on an electric fence, and I've never had an incident with them getting out like this. So I went out and I bought a whole new fence, a whole new transmitters, receivers, everything. I installed it.
Thank you.
Can you just tell me when you did the additional fencing?
I just did it. I just, after this happened, I went out, I bought new transmitters, the new receivers, the whole new fence system.
So within the past month?
So yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Patrick, any questions?
No, I have something I want to say, but I'll wait till we the deliberation.
Okay, I know Cheryl, I do have something in here that was addressed to you, Cheryl. Do you wish to speak to that?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So when we got the notification of the injury, because the victim did seek medical treatment, I contacted the dog owner. We had an extensive conversation by phone. I explained to her exactly what happened. I explained to her the quarantine. I quarantined the dogs. I actually made some suggestions on how to prevent a future incident from happening. And we did have a lengthy conversation. She seemed very responsible. She seemed that she wanted to take the initiative to prevent a future situation. And I felt very confident that she would be a responsible dog owner. I know she's got the property marked with a beware of dogs sign at the property. We did have quite the conversation. So I did explain everything to her, that that's why she was being served the quarantine.
Okay. We've also got an email that was sent to you in the file that's dated August 4th, 2021. Is that something you want to introduce into evidence, or?
I have a copy of that. I can read it. I'm not sure if Cheryl has it in front of her.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you want to get it in, fine. I mean, if you don't, it's you know, you decide what evidence comes before us, so it's your call.
Yeah, I'll read it.
Okay.
It's, from a neighbor, I believe. It says, "Hi Cheryl, I have a cottage on Blackmore Pond in West Wareham and frequently walk around the pond with my grandchildren. There is a very aggressive dog at the Tremblay cottage. I don't know the number. My son-in-law has spoken to the owner, who is very non-responsive, when he stated the dog was scaring everyone while charging his electric fence. We've even turned around rather than go by the dog. Dogs need to be Does a dog need to be chained when electric fence is in place? It seems like this dog will just break through it, and I don't want to see my grandchildren or myself bitten by him. I would hope to feel a bit more comfortable just walking by minding my own business. Please advise and thank you. And that's from a neighbor.
Okay. And Cheryl, this is something you received?
Yes, now I remember getting that. Officer Golden has the file, so I didn't have it in front of me because of the Zoom hearing, and we have 3 going right now. So I forgot that email had come in. I do remember that. And so that's 3 different complaints from 3 different people that we've received for the same property.
Okay. Well, I'll turn it over to questions again from the board about that email. Jim?
No, I read the email that was in the packet that was secondarily sent out on the dog hearing, so I'm all set on that. Thank you.
Yeah. Patrick?
No, I'm all set.
Judy?
Just one quick question, please, of Miss Gilbert. How long have you owned these 2 dogs?
8 years. They're senior boxers. They're old.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing? I don't know if it's just because people can't see the fence that they're afraid to walk by. You know what I mean? Because it's not a visible fence. So people are afraid, but they are contained. They are in a fence. I am a responsible owner. I don't want anything to happen to my dogs. And they only go out when I'm home or somebody in this house is home. They are never out when somebody is not home.
Okay. Well,
and one other thing too, I have photos of loose dogs that have been in this neighborhood, in our yard. They have come out of my yard. Dogs that are not even mine are coming out of my yard. Like I have this photo, which I don't know if you could see it. I don't know if you can.
you'd have to hold it back where your head is, and I think it'll be a little small. Yeah,
it's
not really picking up.
Blurry, but I have several photos of loose dogs in this neighborhood that are not mine.
I do have one more question. I'm sorry.
And then I'll let Cheryl go because I think she wanted to say something.
Yeah. Ms. Gilbert, the dogs are always in the house unless you or somebody in your household is home. Do you have any other contained area for these dogs, like a run?
No, and I did price out a fence. I had talked to Cheryl about maybe getting a solid fence that people can see and they would feel more comfortable to walk by. And I have the estimate here, and it is $18,196.
I was thinking more in the line of, just a 10 by 12, something that you could buy at Tractor Supply or something like that, but you don't have anything like that.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, what would be the recommendation, I guess, at this point, if nobody has any further questions of each other? Cheryl, oh, that's right, you had something, Cheryl, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to say we're not here because of loose dogs. We're here whether or not these dogs have a tenation to being aggressive, which 3 complaints, obviously there's an issue. And as far as electric fences, in the years that I've been doing this, I don't trust them. We've had many dogs jump them. We've had many problems with them. So if the dogs are deemed at risk or dangerous, then I certainly don't feel that an electric fence is a safe measure for these kind of dogs.
So what is the complaint just because the dogs barked when somebody walked by? Because they didn't get out of the yard is what I'm concerned with. Like I said, I've had an electric fence for 16 years and I have never had this issue. And I went out and rebought a whole new fence system because I've had such good luck with the fences. Like I just, because of this incident, this complaint, I went out and bought a whole new system. And I've had them for 16 years. I've had the boxes on the fences and never had an instance.
But we had one last year.
So, like I said, I just replaced the whole system.
They're talking about last year. They came on our property. The lady admitted she was on our property.
Hold on, who's talking in the background?
That's my husband.
Okay, if he wants to testify, he's gonna have to get sworn in. Otherwise, I would ask him to keep quiet because we can't, kind of interferes with what we're doing here.
Yep. but I feel I'm a responsible owner, and I feel that the electric fence works for my dogs. And I do think they do scare people when they walk by because they bark and people don't see a fence, so they're scared. I understand that. But there is one in place. And I replaced it. I did. And I did price out to get a regular fence put in place, but I can't afford $18,000.
Well, I mean, one suggestion I would make, regardless of what happens here today, is for the electric fence, put a lawn sign, if you got one with the fence or something like that.
Yeah, I would do that.
Or get one, or I'm sure you can find them somewhere, Amazon or whatever, and just stick it in the ground. Okay. So electric fence company, whatever, so people have a sense that there is something there to prevent the dogs if they go running and barking. Yeah. There's one thing you said that I would take a little bit of issue with. You said they're 8 years old and they're senior dogs, as though that would make them less of a threat. I've got a 12-year-old female German Shepherd, and if she wanted to, she could flat out kick my butt. She's strong, she's tough, she's active. So that, let's not discriminate against the senior dogs by questioning their capabilities.
No, I'm just saying they grew up on the fence, you know what I mean? And in their lifespan so far, they haven't got out of the fence. And if this recent incident happened, and I asked my neighbor, and she said that the person never ran into her house or whatever, but whether I'm not arguing, I tried. I tried to put up a new fence. I'm trying to be a responsible person. I love my dogs. And I don't want this to happen again, which is why I went out and replaced everything with the fence.
Yeah. Okay, is there anything else here before I ask? We know, well, let's actually get the animal control and DNR recommendation here first, and then we'll discuss it after we close the hearing.
All right, if I may.
Yep.
So my recommendation is that we move away from the electric fence, because this is the second instance that we have on record of them passing the electric fence. So while not under direct control of the controlling person, the dog shall be contained within a building or secured locked enclosure or vehicle. So something other than the electric fence, as this is the second case that we have on record. Also, when not on the property, the dogs may leave the owner's property accompanied by a controlling person on a leash, no more than 4 feet, having minimum tensile strength of 300 pounds in conjunction with a muzzle, and also behavioral training. Those are my recommendations.
Okay. Questions from the board about the recommendations?
Move to close the hearing.
Yeah.
Well, we should let. Yeah, I think we should let Ms. Gilbert respond to the recommendation first, and then close the hearing. If there's something you wish to say. I mean, you obviously are contesting the recommendation.
Right, because I don't agree. My dogs are not aggressive dogs. They're not red flagged at the vet. Like I said, they go to Petco. I take them to Petco. I take them to cookouts. They're around children. They're around people. They're not aggressive dogs.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl?
I just want to say that, dogs don't necessarily have to be aggressive to be territorial and protecting the property. And sometimes as dogs age, their personalities change. So a dog who wasn't necessarily overly territorial when it was younger can become more territorial as it ages. And I know that Officer Golden and I would be open to at risk because the injuries were not severe, but I definitely think some kind of safety measure needs to be put in place because we've had 2 documented incidences.
Okay. Thank you. Patrick, you want to make the motion now?
So move to close the hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion to close the hearing by Patrick, seconded by Judy. Roll call vote. Jim?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. So, what do we think here? Patrick?
All right, so, first off, the first offense, we never heard any of that case. We didn't have any people in front of us. We didn't, other than, you know, not that I don't take DNR's word on what they did and so on. It's just nobody was able to defend the case. Nobody was here to sue it. And the second case, there's no one here. The people that had the had the incident occur on their person are not here as well. Makes it very difficult to make a decision, in my opinion, when you can't speak to the other side of the parties. You can't speak to the parties. Makes it very, very difficult. Now, I appreciate that the people from Animal Control and DNR are here today. And that way, everybody, at least the people that were involved, were here, which is really nice. And I really appreciate that, because we've had some problems where sometimes we can't, you know, talk directly to them either. But this is still problematic. I mean, and I looked at the pictures. I have them here in my packet. And, you know, this guy's scratch is, it's a scratch. It's, there's no evidence of, I mean, it could have been the claw, you know, that the dog jumped on him or whatever a little bit and scratched him. You know, I mean, I know that if you come in my house, my dogs will probably jump on you and trying to play nice with you or whatever, you know, and you get the scratch or whatever, and they never. So, you know, I can't see, I don't see anything here. In my opinion, I don't see anything to make a ruling on. I mean, there's nothing, in my opinion, at this point in this particular case.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Well, there are two recorded incidents that were written and recorded. One by Mr. Buckminster, and the other one by Miss Gorviette Dill and Miss Golden. A number of instances. I understand the cost of more secure fencing. If the dogs are not going to be outside without their owners, and the owners would have to be outside at all times and the dogs are there, I would hope that the new electric fence would work, but I would really consider trying to do some sort of stronger enclosure, maybe off the back of your house, and use the back of your house as part of the fencing. It could reduce the cost. You don't have to do the entire yard. My dogs are, when they're outdoors, they're within a fenced area. So that's just my opinion. No one has made a motion yet to find them at risk or dangerous, and I will just move from here and let the other two selectmen speak.
Thanks. Judy?
Yeah, I agree that there are at least two on record incidences, and I believe them to be factual. I also understand that an $18,000 fence is not a reasonable request for anybody, to be honest with you. And I'm presuming that the dogs had some kind of training as they're 8 years old, and you have, I don't know how old your family members are, but apparently there have never been any instances. My leaning at this point would be to make sure that the dogs were always on leash when they were outside, but not to require anything else. I wouldn't require them to be muzzled. I wouldn't require that. And put the you know, dangerous dog or whatever the Petco signs are, that, you know, you stick them in the ground and they say watch out for the dog or beware the dog or something.
Electric fence.
Yeah, well, not even the electric, or yeah, that identifies the electric fence. Boxers are beautiful dogs, and they're not known to be aggressive dogs. And 8-year-old dogs are, you know, they're adults. I'm not sure they're really seniors, but I'm trying to understand that Miss Gilbert has apparently been a responsible owner. She's licensed the dogs. She obviously takes them to the vet regularly. There's been no incidents of not having behaved or, followed the rules of the town of Wareham or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, except for these two instances. So I hate to say I'm on the fence, but I would be more likely to go along with making sure that the dogs are always on leash when they are in the yard, or that there's always an adult in the yard with them. That's it.
Yeah, that's kind of the most that I would want to see here. I'm almost inclined to give the new electric fence a chance, maybe to hold off on any finding for 6 months and see if there are any more issues. If there are, we could return here on a fresh complaint and deal with it. If not, then we could just dismiss this. I mean, that's a possibility. We don't have to make a direct decision tonight. We can certainly move to just keep the matter open without a vote.
Want to let that continue for 6 months?
Well, it wouldn't be continuing the hearing, but it would just be postponing any enforcement for 6 months.
I don't want to go to 6 months. I would rather go to like 2 to give Ms. Gilbert the opportunity to test the fence, make sure that it's really doing what it's supposed to, put the little signs up and make sure that the neighbors understand that you have done everything that a reasonable human being could be expected to do. And then at the end of the 2 months, I would come back. I don't want to go 6 months, because if there's an incident between now and the 6 months, then we're going to be back where we started.
Well, I was actually not even suggesting that Ms. Gilbert have to come back. I was suggesting that basically, it's almost like finding a disposition out of the court. Any enforcement is held off for a period of time to see if, good conduct ensues. And if it does, it just goes away.
I would be inclined.
I'm sorry, Patrick, I didn't catch the last of what you said.
I said I would agree with that. I think, although I think 6 months is a little long, I think
okay.
The same thing you want to do, Peter. I think just a couple of months is enough to know if something's going to be awry or not.
Okay, Jim?
Right.
And it be understood that if they have to come, if she has to come back, it's like starting from what's already occurred. Mm-hmm. It's not starting new from the 2 month period. So, I like I said, I'm a dog owner, and it's not the dogs, and you do what you can. And if you want to have some personal opinion, if you want to have some freedom and more, be a little more comfortable, think about doing a partial fenced in area. But that's my opinion, and that would be up to you, talking with the dog officers, and a chain link fence or something similar. But I'm agreeable to what Peter's recommending, and 6 months wouldn't bother me. 2 months, whether it's 6 or 2, we're at the same place. If anything in the future happens, everything counts.
I'm ready to make a motion to take no action at this time, except to understand that Ms. Gilbert will make every effort to let the neighborhood know that there is an electric fence, that she will make every effort to make sure that someone is always there. And I would go for a 3 month, let's not do anything, period.
Okay, so we have a motion by Judy. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Judy, seconded by Jim. Any further discussion? I'd like to thank the animal control officers on this. I understand the position they're in, and I can certainly see why they were coming from the position that they did. The thing that personally is driving me a little bit is that this does appear to be a very responsible dog owner. She did make the effort to go get another fence, and I feel like we should give it a try. Obviously, if it doesn't work out, then it's going to have to be a different solution. But that's my thinking on it. Roll call vote. Patrick. Jim.
Yes.
Judy.
Yes.
Myself, yes, 4-0-0. Thank you very much, and we hope everything works out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.
I move that we open the hearing for the dog owned by Calvin Carnes.
Hey, can we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Judy, seconded by Jim. Roll call vote. Jim.
Yes.
Patrick. Patrick, yes?
You not hear me?
Now I can.
Oh.
Mike must be pretty directional. Judy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Myself, yes, 4-0-0. It is now open. Let's see, I will read the complaint letter on this one.
Is there anybody else besides
Oh yeah, we got to let
Ms. Carnes, and we have Cheryl and we have Miss Golden.
yeah,
Is
we have them
anybody
live,
else?
but do we see, and we have Gary as well, if you'd like to come in.
Buckminster.
And we do have Watchery Cons as well. Oh, there we go. And we have Gary. Okay, we need to let Gary Buckminster in as well.
Is Mr. Carnes the dog owner?
Yes.
So is there a person involved, or is it another dog?
With this one, I'll read the complaint letter now.
Okay.
Can I just ask who's in the background in Mr. Carnes's window? Is that person going to be testifying as well?
Mr. Carnes, you have to turn on your microphone.
Just
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Okay, thanks. No, that's my wife in the background. She's just here. She's not going to testify. She didn't have to. I don't think so.
Okay. First off, I'm going to read the complaint letter, then I'll swear in the witnesses. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, complaint of vicious and barking dogs. Mass General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 157, August 11th, 2021. I hereby make complaint hereon that the dogs owned or harbored by Calvin Carnes, 11 Barrett Way, Onset, Mass. 02558, are nuisances by reason of continually barking. Wareham Department of Natural Resources has received multiple complaints about barking dogs all hours of the day, including throughout the night and into the mornings. This is an ongoing issue for the dogs owned by the individual in question. Animal control officers have responded to this location numerous times. On October 22nd, 2019, a public hearing was held regarding the issue of continuous nuisance barking, and the following mandates were imposed. 1, to take all reasonable measures, including but not limited to supervised or limited outdoor excursions and/or the use or construction of a visual opaque barrier between the street and the yard. Number 2, to take all reasonable measures, including but not limited to the use of a muzzle. 3, in addition to the above measures, to supervise any outside excursion prior to 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m. daily so as to ensure no excessive barking occurs. It is apparent that these measures are not resolving the ongoing issue of nuisance barking at this location. Our department has spoken to the dog owner to no avail. I am requesting to hold a hearing to address this unresolved problem. This complaint is made under penalties of perjury. Natural Resource Officer Eva Golden, Wareham Department of Natural Resources Law Enforcement Division. So now I will swear in the witnesses. Is there anybody else who intends to testify besides the Animal Control Officer, the Director of Natural Resources, and the Natural Resource Officer, and Mr. Carnes? Is there anybody else?
Maybe my daughter, Kayla Carnes, and my other daughter, Washri Carnes, they may testify. I'm not 100% sure.
Well, they have to be sworn in now to testify. So if they're going to testify, go get them.
Okay. Well, they're on there. They're on the Zoom call. So, okay, we could just swear them in. And if, you know, if they want to testify.
Okay.
Yes, they're not here in my house, but they're on.
Who are they so we can let them in?
My daughters, both my daughters, Washri Carnes.
Yep, okay, so WC, yep, okay, Washri Carnes, she needs to.
Yes.
Kayla can't see, Kayla can't see the video, but she's on.
Yeah, my daughter Kayla said she can't see the video, but she's on. She can hear everything.
We have a Kay who's in our, the waiting room. That's Kay,
That's
okay,
Kayla.
so let's let Kay in as well, please.
Okay, yep, yep.
Mr. Teitelbaum, I don't know what is going on. It appears that Mr. Carnes is projecting audio at all times, and I don't know why.
Audio.
Well, there's a little background noise, but I can hear everybody pretty clearly.
Well, I can't.
Peter.
Yeah.
Anthony Frangiati wants to be sworn in as well.
Oh, she does. Anthony? Okay. Yep. Then let's bring Anthony in as well.
Since that time, they haven't been very quiet.
Okay, so I need the Director of Natural Resources and Anthony to unmute, as well as Kay and Eva. So we can hear you when we do the swearing in.
Gary Buckman's on.
Okay, you're on? Okay. All right, will everybody please raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Kayla.
I, Calvin.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
The truth.
Tell the truth.
The whole truth.
Whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
Nothing but the truth.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, everybody's sworn in. I will now ask the whoever is going to introduce the Department of Natural Resources, whether it's the ACO, the director, or the officer. Who's got this one? Is that you, Eva?
No, I got it. So I think, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
It might be better to hear from the witness. I believe we only have one, the ante.
Well, the order of business here is to ask you for your, what the complaints have been, how many complaints there have been, so on and so forth. So this is your opportunity to present the case.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's hard to hear. A lot of background noise.
Yeah.
So, as you know, we had a dog hearing.
One second.
I don't know what it is that Mr. Carnes continues. Mr. Carnes, what is it that you have in your hand that's blue?
A speaker.
It's a speaker because I can't hear off the.
Then
so
that's probably causing the back noise that comes back.
I'll try to put it away from. I push it away a little bit.
Thank you.
But I wasn't able to hear, so I had to plug in a separate speaker so I can hear.
Can you hear now?
Yeah, I can hear now loud and clear. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
If everybody can mute while they're not talking, that will eliminate the situation.
Correct. Thank you, Derek.
Okay, so mute it. Okay.
Until you talk.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, Cheryl, go ahead with your presentation of the case.
Okay, as most of you are aware, this is a second hearing on the same dogs for the same issue. Back in October of 2019, we came before the Selectmen and we set some goals in place to prevent ongoing issues. It seemed like it was going pretty well for a while, and then the complaints started coming in again. In my hand, I have 3 main parties who do have a tendency to have issues with the dogs. And when I compare the complaints, it seems to be a pattern. Out of all of them, I would say that Patricia Morrison, I'm not sure if she's with us today, but she has documented dates, times, We've gotten messages through Facebook, through emails, through our department phone, through the police department, complaints of the dogs. So the problem has continued. What I would like to say, though, is just like last time, I went door to door and I spoke with every single neighbor. I also gave every single neighbor a copy of tonight's hearing so that they had the opportunity to come forward. The first time that we had a hearing, just about every single person on the street showed up. This time, it seems that the situation has improved drastically. I have 3 solid people complaints, but they're closer to the house. And so it seems that he has definitely improved the situation. I know he's done a lot of things to try and make the situation better. But what I'm looking for is maybe to fine tune our first order, because it seems out of everything, the nighttime seems to be the biggest issue. And in our first order, after 9 p.m., we weren't supposed to have barking issues. And I'm getting complaints July 15th, 9:45 p.m. They barked for 30 minutes. July 20th, 1 a.m. And then I get an email at 1 a.m. The dogs are barking again. I got July 31st, 2 a.m. And again, got the message at 2 a.m. The dogs are barking. So we're getting barking in the middle of the night, unreasonable hours when we shouldn't have barking. So we definitely need to address that. But I'd like the complainants to actually voice what they're experiencing and see, you know, if they have more to add than what I'm offering.
Okay. Let's see, questions for Cheryl? I'll start with Jim. Need your mic, Jim.
I'm multitasking here. I was trying to look something up. Now, the previous, if I can ask, the previous complaint, what had we directed the dog owners to do? And was it all completed?
So that's the thing. In the original complaint, which I did forward a copy of that original complaint, you should have it on file as well. He did not do the visual peak barrier in the front, and the dogs are in the front, and when they're in the front, they do bark. So there's no barrier there. They were supposed to have supervised excursions outside, anything prior to 8 a.m. and after 9 p.m. And we're getting complaints that they're barking at 1 a.m. and at 2 a.m. and, you know, 9:45 p.m. So I don't know if he's not out there or if they just are barking for whatever reason, but that certainly is not acceptable. And then no more than 20 minutes. That's the main thing, no more than 20 minutes. And some of these complaints, I guess they were outside for a full day one day, you know. So he's complied with some, but it doesn't appear that he's complied with everything.
Thank you.
Patrick?
I have nothing to add right now.
Judy?
No, thank you.
I don't either. Well, I mean, this seems like a fairly simple situation, but we do have other witnesses. But Mr. Carnes, as the owner, you have the right to cross-examine the animal control officer and to ask her questions. So now would be the opportunity for you to do that. So if you want to unmute yourself and ask away.
Okay, yeah, well, the only thing I'd like to add or ask Cheryl is that, you know, it's been a very, very hot summer, and I think that has a lot to do with it. The dog's been somewhat uncomfortable, but the dogs, I never let the dogs bark for 30 minutes. You know, if I'm here, the dogs are definitely not going to be barking for 30 minutes. So, and I know that there's other dogs in the neighborhood, but you know, I'm going to deal with my dogs, but I do respect my neighbors, and I don't want to disturb them at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. So if my dogs are barking at 1 o'clock, I'm here, and you know, and at 2 o'clock and 1 o'clock, you know, they may have been very uncomfortable at one time. I mean, chances are I might be sleeping at that time myself, so I have to get up myself. And if that's the case, I'm going to make sure they quiet down. I'm not going to have them like that. Oh, okay. Well, I was just saying that I'm here at 1 o'clock 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'm not going to have the dogs barking, and chances are I'll probably sleep myself. We don't have central air conditioning in the house, you know, and if it's very, very hot, that could be one of the reasons why they may be uncomfortable, and I try my best to make them comfortable. I do have fans and things like that, but that would be the only reason that they would be barking at night, and I definitely wouldn't let them bark for no half hour, unless I'm completely asleep myself, and then, of course, they're going to wake me up, and I do everything I can to make sure that they're quiet. I keep my windows closed for that reason as well, to make sure that if for any reason they do bark, I'm going to make sure that the windows are closed so that that barking don't transmit out the window to disturb my neighbors. And basically, we thought we were doing pretty good until I did get one complaint probably about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago. One of the animal control officers came by, and that was the first complaint that I got the whole summer. And so I thought we were doing fairly well. So the other complaints that you guys were getting, we really didn't know about them. I'm not saying they didn't happen, but we just didn't know about them, you know? And basically that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you.
You know,
we do have other witnesses. I'll start with Anthony Frangiatis. Anthony?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Barking.
No, I'm not the chairman. I'm just the hearing officer
sorry.
for the dog things.
Thank you all. The barking has improved since our last hearing. What I have noticed is that when Mr. Carnes is not home, the dogs are inside and they'll bark when no one is home. We all have different work hours. So he and Mrs. Carnes may not be around to hear the barking. I live directly across the street, and recently the dogs were barking from 7:30 to 11:30 for 4 hours. And while they're inside and the windows are closed, the dogs do tend to bang into the picture window so much that the glazing does rattle. I appreciate that the windows are closed, but my experience has been excessive barking when the Carnes family is not home and the dogs are restrained inside, and I do live across the street. Secondly, when the dogs are restrained in the front yard on a leash, they lunge and bark whenever someone, my driveway is directly across the street. So when I pull out of the driveway, the dogs lunge and bark from their leashes, which is great that they're restrained and you keep going. However, on multiple occasions, the dogs have become loose from the leash. Once recently this summer, they were posted on social media by somebody else. They were wandering around on Grandview Avenue on the other side of Broad Cove. Another time, I believe it was August of last summer, the dog was attached to the leash and walking up Barrett Way. So while the barking may have improved from the last time we talked, I do agree that it needs to be fine-tuned. And my biggest concern is the dogs becoming loose from the leash because they are lunging and barking, acting in a vicious manner. Even when they're on the back deck is an open rail. If the dogs see something that they want, they're going to jump off of that rail. I'm very concerned about the restraint of them. And they are at times left loose to run the yard. I hear them stampeding by my porch in the middle of the night. So they are running loose.
Well, the issue we would have with that is that the complaint we've been presented with only relates to the barking, not to the, the dogs being loose or anything like that. So we're kind of hemmed into dealing with the barking issue. That's all that's really before us.
So that's the second time we've heard that in the past 2 or 3 years. So I don't know how we get the restraint issue on the agenda. Barking's not going to hurt anyone. It may frighten all of us, but loose dogs barking and lunging, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Anthony? Jim?
I was going to ask Mr. Carnes a question, but we didn't go through that process. So can I do that now?
Yeah, sure.
Can you hear me, Mr. Carnes, and take your mic?
Yes, I just unmuted it. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. You have a solid fence between your backyard or where you keep your dogs in the road and the other residents in the neighborhood?
No, the only fence, well, my dogs only go on the back porch. It's a pretty large back porch. And of course that has the railings on it and it's blocked off with, I got plywood blocking there's stairs. So I have plywood where that is blocked off. I also have a tarp, covering one section on my neighbor if you're facing my house in the front of it, it'd be on the right-hand side. And that is, his name is John. And so I do have a tarp there trying to block the view to keep them from being able to see him. And that's what we talked about the last time I had a hearing, that I was going to try to obstruct their view so that they couldn't see, especially John, the neighbor next door, because he was the only one that they would be barking at. The other side, there's no one on that side, so they don't really bark a lot because there's no one over there. There's a truck that starts up. They bark if they see the truck. There is people that walk up and down the street. They do bark, even if they're in the window, because obviously they're not free all day. But to answer the question, yes, there's rails. To answer that question, there's rails.
And the bark's probably as big as the dogs are, right?
Probably. That's why I try to keep the barking down, because it annoys me too. I'm sure it would annoy anyone, and I'm not gonna let them bark. I mean, I get no pleasure out of that.
Thank you very much.
No pleasure. Yeah.
Okay, Patrick.
I have nothing to say right now.
Judy.
I have some questions, and they also are to Mr. Carnes, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. How many dogs are we talking about?
3 dogs, the mother and 2 of her puppies.
And what kind of dogs are they?
Connie Corsers.
Okay, and so can you give me an approximate weight of the oldest and largest dog?
Well, the oldest dog would be the mother, and she is 6. One of her puppies is probably about 180 pounds, and he's 3 years old.
Thank you.
And then, yeah.
Okay, and you say that there's no air conditioning in your house, is that correct?
No, we don't have air conditioning in our house that I use for the dogs. It's just fans to try to keep them cool.
So I have heard testimony that the dogs have sometimes been in the house for 4 hours at a time with no air conditioning during the day. Is that correct?
No, that's not true. I mean, there's fans in the house to keep them cool. The fans are going 24/7. I don't even cut them off, because I definitely they have to be cool. So yeah, I mean, I have fans in the house, but there's no air condition.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have, Mr. Titlebaum.
Well, I don't really have any questions. I mean, I think it's just a case of too much barking still going on. I do have a question for any of the animal control officers. Have any citations been handed out, or has there been an occasion when you've said, hey, listen, it's got to stop, or you're getting a ticket?
Yes, I've actually had a conversation with Mr. Carnes, who more than one conversation. I go by the property every single time I get a complaint. I investigate every single time we get a complaint. I actually try to frequent the house almost every day and sit outside his property. Whether or not he's home, I park at the end of the road to observe the situation, because I want to be fair. And sometimes you get citations, but most of these complaints were kind of falling into the gray zone because we didn't have any video in the past. The last time we came, there was videos that were being sent in, photographs that were being sent in. I was getting complaints from one end of the road to the other. So a lot of these complaints were the dogs were barking last night. It was after the fact. So there was no way to actually document that it happened. But what I would do is have a conversation with Mr. Carnes, or I would go by the property. I would sit there and I would observe for sometimes as much as an hour to try and see if I could actually physically see a complaint and to issue a citation.
Okay. Let's see, we do have a couple of other witnesses here, Mr. Karn's daughters. So who wants to bat lead off here? I'll start with Kay.
Hello, I'm Kayla.
Hi.
My father's had the dogs for 3 years. I was at the hearing the first time. I know that he has taken the actions requested and or suggested by the board during the last hearing. I frequently visit, and I know that when we're all there, the dogs don't bark, or not, sorry, they don't, it's not that they don't bark, it's that we all take the initiative and take the leadership of telling them, hey, you know, cut it out or stop, or if they're on the back porch and they're barking too much, we bring them in the house. For the most part, I live elsewhere. I don't actually live in the house, but I visit my parents fairly often. So some of the neighbors, obviously they see a few more things than I do, but when I am there, I know that one of the dogs is typically, they're on leash. Sometimes it's one or two of them in the front yard, but for the most part, I know he has them in the back if he's home. I know the typical times that he does do that is like in the morning or in the evening. Most of the time, it's going to be in the evening when he's on the back porch. I have seen the tarp. I know that he did that to create a barrier in between his neighbor's yard. Like you said, if you're looking at the house to the right, it's on the right side, and then there's barricades around the back so that they can't get off of the porch. You know, they use that space to roam around. It's a very large porch. And I know that we open the windows to air out the place, but he does keep them closed to try to contain the noise. And I have seen the fans. I know he uses the fans to keep them cool. They each have their own fan in their little separate areas, and it's like pointed right on them so that they do try to stay cool. He tries to keep them as comfortable as possible.
Okay, thank you. Patrick, questions?
No.
Jim? Any questions?
No, I'm good.
Judy?
No.
No.
I don't have any either. Now we'll go to your sister.
Hi.
Hi.
So I've been to the house. I live in Boston. I drive out there a lot of the weekends with the kids, or sometimes my kids will go out there. The dog, they do barks, and when we hear them barks, we always try and contain them and just tell them to stop, because they're big dogs. So if we don't like hearing it, we're sure our neighbor don't like to hear them either. So when we're there, we trying to separate the dogs to make sure that they don't bark, so he's been pretty good with that, either give them treat or just, have the kids take one of the dog and just play. But usually he don't put the dog outside without the leash. Or sometimes he just send my son out there with the dog to like walk them and stuff, or just, go out there with them. Or if one start barking, we separate them for some reason. If they see something, they're going to bark, their dogs. So, but, we've been trying to just, when they bark, just trying to make them stop or trying to distract them or something.
Okay, thank you. Questions, Patrick?
No.
Jim?
No.
Judy?
No.
Myself, no. I guess we're at the point, I don't think there's anybody else who wants to testify any further.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So I'm gonna, this weekend, I'm probably gonna go over to his house and try to set up a camera. So that way we can watch and see the dogs are barking. We can communicate with them and talk to them. So that way they can hear us talking. So they know that like we might not be there physically, but they can hear us. So I'm gonna help him do that, over the weekend sometime.
Actually a pretty good idea. Okay, I'm looking at.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say one more thing. This weekend, I went to visit my other daughter, and we went to Bass Pro Shop, and I just want to let my neighbors know that we purchased these new box callers. They're rechargeable box callers, and I don't know if you can see them. I can try to hold it up for you so you can see them. I mean, they're fairly expensive. They're like $90 each, but I think it's a good investment because, you know, we really want to contain the barking. We really want to stop the barking. And we had purchased some before, and the problem that we had was that they tore them off of each other because they can't get them off themselves, but the other one will like, they're playing together, so they literally chewed it off the other one. So this thing is like $90, so I'm really gonna pay close attention to it to make sure that they don't tear this one off of each other. I'm hoping that these work better to make sure that we can stop the barking or keep it reasonable, you know, and I just wanted to mention that.
Okay.
Can I add something, please?
Yes.
Calvin had mentioned that he went to visit my sister in out of state, and I watched the dogs myself while I was there, and I noticed that the barking really came around the times where they needed to use the bathroom or when they were hungry. And I tried my best to give them snacks, like my sister had mentioned, and I tried my best to, you know, make sure that I knew the time that they needed to go to the bathroom, or, you know, make sure that they were out in time and take them on walks and stuff so that they can kind of tire themselves out, but also know that those are the really big problem areas for them, that when they're really hungry, because they are fairly big dogs. I mean, we all get hangry at some point. They get hangry too. So, you know, try to feed them enough that way they don't get agitated or anything. And like I said, and sometimes at night it's the bathroom breaks that they need. It's really to notify somebody in the house, hey, I need to go out. And sometimes, unfortunately, that happens during the night. I also know that we've been trying to play around with the food proportions and the food content, because sometimes they get irritated through the night. And particularly from my experience when I was there was one time where I might have either overfed them, and I think they might have had a stomach ache or something. So they were excessively barking the first night or two that I was there. But every single time, one of the nights I woke up a couple times in the middle of the night to take them out. And it was, you know, 3 or 4 times just to let them out. But during the time that he was away, I called him and I said, hey, this is what's happening. What do you think I should do? And he said, you know, try this, try a little less dry food, try a little more wet food, you know, and give them snacks and the treats and stuff. And I know that one of the nights I did try that, and I messed with the content and the contents of their food. And one of the nights they slept straight through. So I know that it is a matter of them being comfortable. It could be the heat. It could be, you know, them needing to go to the bathroom or their stomach is upset. And so I did notice an improvement, especially at nighttime, when I did pay more attention to what it was that I was feeding them. And I know that they slept straight through the night and just woke me up in the morning when they needed to go to the bathroom. And so I don't think it was a stomach issue that time. And so when they did wake me up, I just stayed with them, and that was around 7-ish. And I know that as soon as I fed them, this was actually yesterday, I was able to just go back upstairs and lay down, and they didn't bother me at all until they didn't bother me at all actually yesterday, because like I said, I'm paying more attention to their food, and they went to the bathroom, and then I went out for lunch. I let them go to the bathroom before I took them out for a bathroom break before I left, and I hadn't heard a peep out of them. And then, you know, I came back, and that's when my parents had returned.
Okay, thank you. Rudy?
Yeah, I would like to hear the recommendation from the animal control people. We've heard basically the same testimony several times, and I don't think that we need to hear it again.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not
we have
trying
a
to
clear
cut
picture
anybody
here.
off, but I think that we need to hear the recommendation and move forward.
Yep. So, Cheryl?
Do you need me to read the entire verbatim what we did last time, or just the changes that I'm looking to make?
Well, I'll summarize. The last time it was to take all reasonable measures, the visible barrier, limit the excursions outside. Let's see, use a muzzle, which of course you're not going to do that much in the summertime. Supervise any outside excursion prior to 8 a.m. or after 9 a.m. I see that those are contained in your current recommendation. What is different in the current one from that?
Well, I'm just trying to, I compared the 3 people who made complaints, and they all seem to have a bit of a pattern. And one of them was the evening hours, which certainly is a big complaint. So I put no barking between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. I mean, there shouldn't be any barking at all. I think the tolerance here is just 0 now because it's been going on so long. These are very large dogs. These are very loud dogs, and it's a very tight-knit community. So he's just got to figure out a way not to have any barking whatsoever from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then in the front yard, there's a pen, and that has no visual barrier. So when they're out in the front yard, they are barking at people. He did put something up on the back deck, but if he's going to have them in the front yard in the pen, he needs to put something up so that there's an opaque barrier for the front kennel as well. And we need to emphasize no more than 20 minutes, because some of these complaints are 30 minutes, 40 minutes, all day, hours. So we got to make sure nothing over 20 minutes during the day.
Yeah, and that's what's stated in the bylaw. So that's the measuring stick. I've used bark collars myself on my own dogs. They actually worked pretty well. For whatever reason, they didn't figure out how to rip them off each other, so I had that going for me. Is that something that you would like to memorialize in order, or is that because he's already gone and made the investment? So
yeah, I would just like to take that original order. We can add in the no barking collars, the modifications I've made, and put together another order. If we keep getting complaints, we need some evidence if we want citations written. So if somebody wants to get a Ring doorbell or something like that to document these barking occurrences if they continue, because we're getting into he said, she said right now. And so in court, we need some evidence.
Yeah, and of course, whenever you go sit there and have lunch or whatever, they're not barking, right?
Every single day I go by, they're not barking, and I talk to the gentleman next door. He's like, they hardly bark. So everybody's giving me mixed stories, but we definitely have 3 different people who definitely have certain areas that seem to be of major concern, and those are the ones we want to address, especially at the nighttime, the 1 o'clock, the 2 o'clock. We want to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, the dogs probably know your work truck engine by now, so they hear it coming around the corner and they all go, "Hey, shut up."
And they all hide.
So, unfortunately, they're smart. Okay, what does the board think? Jim?
I like the idea of making sure the original conditions are met, and that the areas where the dogs are going to be outdoors are enclosed so that they don't have a visual line of sight to the neighbors' properties, especially the ones that seem to be having the most problems. I think those are across the street, if I looked at the map correctly. And maybe keep the dogs in the backyard more often than to put them out front, but I'll leave that up to our animal control office to work out. Add the additional conditions. I think we're trying, and I think Mr. Carnes is trying, and I think hopefully we'll be able to work through it. Thanks.
Okay, Patrick?
Well, do you want to wait until we close the hearing before we do this?
Yeah, really.
Well, no, I'm just asking what your thoughts are before we go ahead and close the hearing.
Yeah, really.
Well, I can wait until we deliberate.
Because I want to give Mr. Carnes an opportunity to respond.
Yeah.
Well, okay. If he wants to know, then frankly, there is no reason in this world to have a dog barking after 9 o'clock and at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning. None whatsoever. It's just unacceptable. I would be livid in my neighborhood if the dogs around here were barking at that time of the night. It's unacceptable, and I don't know what you got to do, but you got to stop it. It's as simple as that. It has to stop. Now, during the day when the dogs are probably out or something, yeah, dogs are going to bark a little, and I think everybody appreciates that. But this nighttime thing is, in my opinion, there's no excuse at all. The dogs, keep them inside if that's the case. Keep them inside. Don't put them out at night. I know a lot of people like to run the dogs around at night and let them go out or do whatever, but just keep them in. You can't have them barking like that.
Thank you. Judy?
I will agree that they should never be barking after 8 o'clock at night and before 8 o'clock in the morning at all, period. So I have, I'll save my comments till we have closed the hearing.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give Mr. Carnes one more opportunity to speak to this. You've heard what the recommendations are, so now would be your chance to say that's fine, I agree with them, or no, I don't think you should do this.
Well, the only thing I could say is that, you know, I mean, I know he said there's no excuse, but I mean, we did have an extremely hot summer. And I think we've had probably the hottest summer that we've had in years. And, you know, the dogs can be uncomfortable at some time, but I'll do everything I can to pay close attention to the night barking. Because it's no good for me as well as it's no good for my neighbors either. So, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that. But it's hard for me to, you know, to tell a dog not to bark if he's sick, uncomfortable, or whatever he is. But I'm going to do my best to make sure that they stop that barking, especially those times at night. You know, and I try to only have one. There's only one dog that goes out in the front most of the time, and I'll just have to keep her from going out as much. But I will be out there with her to make sure that she doesn't stay out long enough to even think about barking. It's going to be hard to put a barricade in the front. I know that was one of the recommendations that I think Cheryl had mentioned that. You know, it's going to be just kind of hard. That's almost like a stockade fence, and nobody on the street have a stockade fence for visual. But maybe I can just limit the dog going out there and go out there with the dog. You know, I'll have to limit that, but that's all I have to say on that.
I move to close the hearing.
Okay, motion to close the hearing by Judy, seconded by Patrick. Roll call vote. Jim?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. The hearing's closed. Well,
I make a motion to take all of the original recommendations which were on the letter of August 11th, 2021. Make sure that the dogs all have bark collars, and we will revisit this in 1 month.
In what month?
okay. So that's the motion. Is there a second discussion? Second from Patrick. Jim?
That's fine. The hours, what are the hours for barking dog on our bylaws? Are they 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock?
It's prior to 8 a.m. and after 9 p.m.
Okay. So, you know, quiet dogs from 9 p.m. till 8 a.m. in the morning.
Yep.
And, you know, I appreciate Mr. Carnes going up and get the bark collars, and it's just going to be, you know, a little bit of effort on everybody's part, and I think we'll be able to take care of it. Hopefully we can. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Any further discussion? Okay, Judy made a motion, seconded by Patrick. Roll call vote. Jim?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. We'll come back to this. We'll await a report in a month and see where we're at.
Thank you. I move to open the hearing to reopen the hearing on the robbery dog issue, which was continued.
Thank you.
Second by Jim. Roll call vote. Judy?
Yes.
Patrick?
Come on, out of here?
Yeah, we're closed.
You guys are all set. Thank you. Jim?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay, we'll open this one up. Just to revisit, the last time around, we heard testimony from the Department of Natural Resource Officer regarding a wound that was alleged to have been inflicted upon somebody who sought medical treatment. We heard from that person's attorney as well, who was in. So I've got to check here and see if that person is still around. Was that Ms. Rosenthal? If it was, we've got to let her in. I think it was. I think Laura Rosenthal was the attorney for the alleged victim here. And is there anybody else who wants to testify? Well, we've got to get.
I thought it was Susan Miller was the attorney.
Was it Susan Miller? And who's Laura Rosenthal? I'm curious. But let's see. Not me. Okay, she was very definitive about that. Oh, okay, that's fine. We had Mr. Robry up on the screen, but I don't see him now. Let me check. Oh, there he is. Okay, so we've got Mr. Robry. Mr. Robry, did you bring your witness back, or is he not part of this tonight? You got to turn on your mic. Yep.
He can be here tonight. Yes.
If he needs to.
I mean, I don't know that he needs to. I think we heard his testimony, so I think we could just move on from that. The reason we continued the hearing was there was a reference made to a prior incident, and we're giving the Department of Natural Resources the opportunity to bring that into the record, so that we have the actual report. We can go from there. So I'll turn it over to Officer Golden.
All right, thank you, sir. So I do have information from the previous victim. He was unable to attend this evening, and I'm not sure where the other victim is. I gave him the notification, but I'm not sure if he's in the waiting room or not. But if you'd like to hear the story from the previous victim, I have all the information.
Yes, please.
All right, so this happened on June 16th of 2021, and it was on 17th Ave in Wareham. So this is from the victim, Sean Lamoureux. He states, I was walking with a friend in my mom's driveway on 17th Ave in Wareham when Duke ran up to me and nipped at my outstretched hand. I offered him a hand to sniff before attempting to pet him. Realizing he was not friendly, I turned to move away from him, and that is when he bit my leg, leaving one deep puncture wound and a scratch. After running around my car to get space from Duke, I was able to jump into my passenger seat until he ran away. My mom knew where the dog lived, having seen it on the back deck during her regular walks. I proceeded to the house to make the owners aware of the situation and to see if I could learn whether or not he was up to date on his rabies shots. When I sat out front, I called the phone number from a tree service listed at the address. I spoke to an older woman who answered the phone, who quickly came out to meet me with Duke's paperwork, and he attached the picture, which is the same photograph I had, or the same document I have from the previous hearing. He states, I cannot remember an exact quote from our conversation, but it was my impression that she is easily overpowered by the dog. This judgment is based on her age and health conditions she alluded to as we spoke. She is very remorseful for the situation and mentioned that the dog isn't hers. I proceeded to urgent care at Wareham Crossing, where they cleaned and bandaged the puncture wound. They deemed it unnecessary to treat me for rabies based on the dog's paperwork I acquired. I filled out an animal bite form and was assured that it would be forwarded to Wareham Police and Animal Control. As mentioned before, I'm unable to be present for the hearing, but he's happy to participate. And that was from Sean Lamoureux, the original victim.
Okay. Questions from the board for Officer Golden? Jim.
Thanks for yourself and Mr. Buckminster for bringing that additional information forward. It's appreciated. Thank you.
Patrick.
Yeah, I have no questions.
Judy.
No questions.
I don't have any either, but Mr. Robry might. So would you like to inquire and cross-examine the Department of Natural Resources officer?
I didn't even know about this until my mom literally just let me know about this. I believe my front door was getting fixed as well. That's how he like kicked it open and got outside. And I was working at the time, and I don't know why he wouldn't tell me something like that, but that's all I have to say. I don't really have anything else. I didn't even know about it last time.
Okay, I do have a question for the Department of Natural Resources officer. According to the letter from Sean Lamoureux, the date of this was supposedly June 16th of this year. Did anybody go to the house to see what was going on with this?
May I?
Yes.
Yes, sir. So I have a Wareham police incident report stating that now he's not with our department anymore, but Officer Kimball had submitted a 10-day quarantine. He'd served the quarantine. And we only do that when there's a bite involved. So I do have documentation from that.
Okay. Do you know if Officer Kimball served it on Mrs. Robery?
That I'm not sure. I have the report here states that it was Gerald Robery, I believe looks like the 8th, but at 1815th. So I'm not sure exactly who he spoke to.
Okay. I'm just asking this because Mr. Robery is telling us he didn't know about the incident. So I just, want to know who the quarantine would have been served on.
Probably my dad.
Pardon?
Probably my dad, who just has the same name.
Mm-hmm.
What was this for again?
This is for an incident that took place, it's claimed to have taken place on June 16th of this year.
That probably served my dad.
Yeah, it was served on the 20th of June.
Served on the 20th. Okay. The incident would have been the 16th, and then the service of the quarantine would have been the 20th. Okay. Okay. We don't have any more witnesses. I'll start with the.
I think Peter.
If anybody wants to.
I think Miss Gloria Dill wants to speak.
Oh, okay.
Hi. Yes.
Please.
Mr. Robery, were you the gentleman that I spoke to on the phone after I left a notification at your door? After the second incident,
Yeah.
I called. Yes. Okay. And you and I had talked about the first one, and you told me that it was just a scratch and that they were just trying to get money from you. We didn't have that conversation. When on the phone, when you were telling me that the first person, it wasn't a bite, that it was just a scratch and they were just trying to get money out of you. You don't remember that conversation with me on the phone? Do you remember we talked on the phone?
Well, he doesn't. He doesn't actually have to answer, but if that's your testimony.
Yes, he told me on the phone that the first time that it was a scratch, that there was an incident, but it was a scratch, and that he felt that the person was trying to get money out of him. So he did tell me that he knew there was a first incident on the phone when I spoke to him after the second incident.
I never said anything about money. I thought.
Okay, but it's clear that you're aware of the first incident, which you had previously denied. Okay, do we have any other questions here from the board for Animal Control Officer Gorviat Dill or DNR Officer Golden? I'll start with Jim.
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, Judy.
No.
Patrick.
No, I'm just glad to have had this. The last time we didn't have this information. I appreciate having it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, now's the chance for anybody to make a final statement if they'd like before we close the hearing. I'll let Mr. Robery go.
Is Mr. Oliveira here?
Excuse me?
Where is Mr. Oliveira?
He does not appear to be attending. It's not required.
Okay. And I would also like to say my dog is being trained at the moment too, and his trainers, I don't know, he said he's not an aggressive dog or dangerous at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Cheryl?
Yes, I just want to say that on the day that we got the bite report for the second victim, I did call him by the phone. He was actually at the time getting medical treatment for the injury. He explained what had happened to me and how the dog had come after him in an aggressive manner, unprovoked, and resulted in injury. I also received a phone call a few days later from a female who said that her son had also been a victim of the same dog, that the dog had chased her son, gone after him, that he had to jump into a car to get away from him, that he was injured. I didn't know about the first incident. That's how I discovered it. And so I told her that we needed to talk to her son, who was the actual victim, and he was an adult, and he was supposed to call back. He called apparently when I was not working, and that is how Officer Golden had a conversation with him. But I did talk to the mother of the first victim, and I did talk to the victim under the second incident.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else? Close the hearing.
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion to close the hearing by Judy, seconded by Patrick. Roll call vote. Jim?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay, we have the recommendation from the from the Department of Natural Resources Officer, Ms. Golden, which would be as follows. When not under direct control of a controlling person, the dog shall be contained within a building, vehicle, or secure locked enclosure. The dog may only leave owner's property accompanied by a controlling person on a leash of not more than 4 feet, having a minimum tensile strength of 300 pounds, used in conjunction with a muzzle. Behavior training for the dog from a trainer approved by the ACO. I did hear the gentleman say that the dog was undergoing training, so that would be something probably you would want to communicate to the ACO anyway. Spaying or neutering of the dog, unless the owner of the dog provides evidence that a veterinarian is the opinion the dog is unfit for alterations because of a medical condition. So basically neutering. So this is the recommendation we have.
That's my motion.
And they're requesting a at-risk designation, not dangerous.
I move it at risk and to include in the recommendation all of the things that you just read into the record.
Now, the at-risk designation lasts for 2 years under the local bylaw. So it's not a lifetime thing. If the dog's good for 2 years, then it lapses and then the conditions can go away. If the board votes for this, they haven't voted yet. So I'm just letting you know, Mr. Overy, what the effect would be should the board vote to do these things. You know, it's a big, strong dog, and he's going to be a handful. So we have a motion by Judy. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Patrick. I'll go around for discussion on the motion. Jim?
Yes, if I could, I don't know what the intentions of the dog is by Mr. Overy. He plans on breeding it or whatever. In neutering, at times it can help. It's a 1-year-old dog, I guess. Again, secure enclosure. What about an electric fence? I mean, I'd like to have some consistency in what we're doing related to dogs and what might be considered, similar instances, and the understanding of the owners that they need to take the responsibility for their animals. So I would like to move to amend the motion to let's see how it moves forward over the next couple months and the what the owner does in order to contain the animal and complete the training. before we have a designation of at risk. But that's just my suggestion.
Okay.
And I motion to that.
Patrick?
Yes.
Thoughts on the motion?
Well, he made a motion, so what do we?
Well, we had a motion pending with Judy.
Right. So made a motion to amend, and you got to try to see if you get a second, and then we'll be talking about that. So you're gonna.
Okay. Does anybody want to second Jim's amendment? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody jumping in to amend here. So I guess we're back to the original motion.
Okay. Now I'm ready.
Now you're ready?
I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Mr. Robry, you know, you need to get a handle on this. It's two incidences, and there can't be a third. A third would not be a good thing. I understand the dog is powerful, and it's, you know, a big dog and all that, but you're a pretty powerful guy, and I think you can handle this. And I think you need to really step up to the plate here. You know, you're getting an at-risk designation. You could actually be found dangerous dogs with 2 bites, okay? And I'm bite wounds for this gentleman, and it's clear that those are dog bites. I mean, it's not even a question. Those are teeth marks. It's not even a question about what this one is. Sometimes we look at them and you look at them and you see it looks like a scratch or whatever. You can't really tell, but that's clear that that's a bite mark. So you need to step up to the plate and get, you know, take care of this situation. And therefore, I'm going to vote in favor of the motion.
Okay, Judy?
It's my motion, and I think it's wonderful.
It's a wonderful motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've actually closed the hearing, so this is just internal discussion at this point. Is there anything else to be said?
Do you guys have any recommendations on where I should have them neutered?
Cheryl can tell you that.
Yeah. We can follow up after. There's actually a voucher program. I may be able to assist in the cost, so we can follow up on that.
I don't mind paying for them. Some places are really ridiculous.
I'll work with you after the hearing.
Yeah, Cheryl's pretty good about getting neutering done for all sorts of critters. None of us yet, but she's working on it. Okay, we have a motion by Judy, seconded by Patrick. Roll call vote. Jim?
No.
Patrick?
Yes.
Judy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. It's 3-1-0. You'll get a letter with the conditions sent out to you later this week. You know, please take care of this big fella. I'm sure he's a great dog, but you got to get him under control. And that concludes the dog hearings for the night.
Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is...
I'd like to thank, well, you know, we've had these people here a long time. I'd like to thank the Animal Control Officer, Cheryl Gorviat-Dill, and the Department of Natural Resources Officer, Eva Golden, for hanging in there, as well as everybody's boss, Gary Buckminster, the director. So thank you all for hanging in.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay. I'm going to take some things off the agenda. I'm going to take 12G off the agenda, and in our executive session, the first item is not going to be discussed. We usually try and get out of here by 10 o'clock, so I would ask that we sort of move along. The next thing on the agenda is an appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Mr. Tropiano, do you have a motion?
Yeah, I move that we appoint to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to expire June 30th, 2026. Veronica DeBenice, is that how you say it?
Debonese, you're close.
Debonese, yeah.
Debonese. I wasn't bad, huh? That was pretty.
No.
You know, I'm butchering names, man.
I was going to say, you usually don't even hit the target sheet, let alone get the bullseye.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not too good with
I wonder
names.
what he did with my name the first time he read it.
You know what
I have to ask him that.
The funny part
Gentlemen,
is,
come on.
I can't remember names either, so that's even worse.
Second.
All right. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to address a couple of things here. I'd like to know if we have a current ethics completion of the ethics certificate training. It's ethics training certificate in the file for her?
I don't know the answer to that question.
And was she invited to the hearing tonight?
No, she was not, but she did sign, she sent a letter to us.
No,
and she was recommended by the board.
Right, I did. I just asked if she was invited. And has she completed any training, either provided by Attorney Bowen and or outside agency related to planning and zoning?
I don't know the answer to that question.
3 years. Those are some things we really need to get on. It's part of our policies related to the adjudicatory boards, the ones that hold the hearings and make decisions related to training. And as we've been talking about, ethics certificates might be a good point, a good place to put a check on that, to not appoint until we have had verification, or reappoint. They continue in the position until they've been either replaced or appointed anyhow. So I would suggest we wait and find out some of this information and make the decision, continue it to the next meeting, personally.
You have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of appointing?
I'd like to make a motion to amend that. I'd like to amend the motion that was made.
Is there a second to Mr. Muniz's motion to amend?
Follow the rules and policies that we have in place. And
don't see a second, so it dies for lack of a second. Go back to the main motion, which is to appoint. I'm going to do a roll call vote. Mr. Teitelbaum?
That's a reappointment.
Yes.
Reappoint.
Reappoint.
Mr. Tropiano?
Yes.
Mr. Muniz?
No.
And myself, yes, so 3-1-0. Thank you. I'm going to invite Ms. Babcock and Ms. Rosenthal. You already are here. Thank you very much. I would ask you to really speak quickly. I know it's a very important message that you have to deliver to us, but we do try and get out of here by 10 o'clock, and I apologize for keeping you waiting so long. Go ahead, Jean.
Hi, thank you all for inviting us. Yeah, I didn't realize these meetings were this long.
Neither.
You're about the 9th one we've attended. It's the longest one we've attended, but I want to thank you all for the work that you do. Laura and I are co-chairs for the Plymouth County Suicide Prevention Coalition. We're actually one of 9 coalitions throughout the state of Massachusetts that do suicide awareness, intervention, and trainings. We are funded through the Department of Public Health, and all our trainings that we offer throughout the communities, even your community, the police station, police departments, correction departments, sheriffs, are all free. We even try to get into the school to give the school staff the tools that they need to know signs and symptoms of someone who might be in crisis or someone who's having a mental health issue. And we try and de-escalate it, and we give them the tools to do that. So I just want to thank you for acknowledging that this subject is very important. Just to give you some figures, in the state of Massachusetts last year, there were 647 suicide deaths. That is more people than died by vehicular homicide. And suicide also ranks number 10 in the United States. And homicide ranks number 16. And those are some quick facts. The biggest fact I always give everybody, nationally, 47,511 people died by suicide last year. That's just in the United States. And to put that into perspective, the next time when you're at Fenway Park, stand up and do a 360 around the park and look at every person that's in that park. More people than what can fill Fenway die by suicide every year. So it is a national, I don't want to say pandemic, that is not it right now, but it is a national health issue that needs to be addressed and needs to be addressed more openly. I am a lost survivor, so this does mean a lot to me. I lost my 15-year-old niece to suicide 10 years ago. And I started doing this work 7 years, and I will continue. Hopefully I can do it full time. So thank you.
Do you wish to speak, Ms. Rosenthal?
No, just to thank you for allowing us to be here tonight And again, to reiterate what Jenny said about the need to have the conversation, to spread awareness, and to have people feel that they can talk about it openly. And that's in every community.
Thank you. I'm going to read the proclamation. And before I do that, I'm going to let you all know that my daughter, who works for Homeland Security, is in charge of the suicide prevention program for the United States Coast Guard. So never hearing the names, I hear some absolutely dreadful stories. So I thank you, ladies, for bringing this to us. National Suicide Prevention Month, September 2021 proclamation for the town of Wareham. Whereas suicide is the 10th leading cause of all deaths in the United States and the second leading cause of death among individuals between the ages of 15 to 24. Whereas in the United States, one person completes suicide every 14 minutes. Whereas it is estimated that 5 million people in the United States are survivors of suicide loss. Whereas an increase in the overall suicide rate in our country was seen in 2019, representing a change in the recent pattern of stability or slight declines. Whereas suicide is a community problem, and thus there must be a community response through various initiatives to reduce suicidal behaviors. Whereas the Plymouth Suicide Prevention Coalition, which is dedicated to reducing the frequency of suicide attempts and deaths through education, awareness, and actions, urge that we as a community, 1, recognize suicide as a national, state, and Wareham public health problem and declare suicide prevention to be a Plymouth County priority. 2, acknowledge that no single suicide prevention program or effort will be appropriate for all populations or communities. 3, encourage local initiatives based on the goals contained in the National Strategy for Suicide Prevention that will A, develop and implement strategies to reduce the stigma associated with being a consumer of mental health, substance abuse, and suicide prevention services. B, develop and implement community-based suicide prevention programs and suicide bereavement support services. C, implement training for the recognition of at-risk behavior and for the delivery of the effective treatment. D, increase access to and community linkages with mental health and substance abuse in the entertainment and news media. Whereas a great many suicides are preventable, therefore it be resolved that we, the Wareham Board of Selectmen, do hereby designate September 10th, 2021, which overlaps the World Suicide Prevention Day on September 10th, as National Suicide Prevention Month in the town of Wareham, Massachusetts, signed by the chair. We will send this to you. Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies.
Yes, thank you for your work.
And thank you.
It's an important topic and it's a tough topic.
It is. Okay.
Thanks.
I actually have, I didn't do my announcements and I'm going to hold one of them off until next week, but we're coming up on a very important anniversary and I'm going to read something that will let you know that I know what the anniversary is. This is a proclamation by the President of the United States of America. On September 11th, 2001, a bright autumn day was darkened by the worst attack on the American people in our history. Thousands of innocent men, women, and children perished when mighty towers collapsed in the heart of New York City and wreckage burned in Pennsylvania and at the Pentagon. They were families and friends, service members and first responders, and the tragedy of their loss left pain that will never fade and scars our country will never forget. More than 2 decades later, the world we live in is forever changed. But as we mark the anniversary of September 11th, we remember that what remains the same: our character as a nation, our faith in one another, and our legacy as a country strengthened by service and selflessness. In the spirit that moved rescue workers and firefighters to charge into darkness and danger that September morning, we see the same sense of moral responsibility that drove countless Americans to give of themselves in the months that followed. We offered our neighbors a hand and lined up to give blood. Many helped our nation rebuild and recover long after the dust had settled, donating and volunteering and helping survivors who had borne so much. We were united, and the outpouring of generosity reminded us that though challenges that have spanned from acts of terrorism to natural disasters, we go forward together as one people. Today, as we remember the victims, their families, and the heroes who stood up during one of our country's darkest moments, I invite all Americans to reclaim that abiding spirit of compassion by serving their communities in the days and weeks ahead. From volunteering with a faith-based organization to collecting food and clothing for those in need, to preparing care packages for our men and women in uniform, there are many ways to bring service into our everyday lives, and each of us can do something. To get involved and find a local service opportunity, you can go onto several websites. Even the simplest act of kindness can be a way to honor those that we have lost and to help build stronger communities and a more resilient nation. By joining together on this solemn anniversary, let us show that America's sense of common purpose need not be a fleeting moment, but a lasting virtue, not just on one day, but every day. By a joint resolution approved December 18th, 2001, the Congress has designated September 11th of each year as Patriot Day, and the Congress has requested the observance of September 11th as an annually recognized National Day of Service and Remembrance. This was signed by Barack Obama, and I just wanted, and I won't bother to read the rest of it, I just wanted to mention that that horrible anniversary is coming up, and I want everyone to know that we very much value what the people who were first responders and everyone else came and brought to their communities. Thank you. We are going to skip 12B. We are going to do item C, discussion and possible vote to approve the opt-out and reduction fee applications. Mr. Tropiano or Mr. Titlebaum, can you make the motion, please?
So moved.
Okay, you're there. It's $8,301.25.
Yep, second.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Muniz?
Yeah, is this a affirmation of the vote we previously took?
No, this is another set. This is number 6.
Right, I thought I saw the letter saying number 6 and that we had approved it. Well, but that's all right. I approve the
we've done 5 so far. This is the 6th.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Yes.
That's so you're voting yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano? Myself, yes. It is 3-0-0. Mr. Tropiano has stepped away for a moment.
No, I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Do you want to vote on that?
I had to, take care of myself.
Okay. May I do? I'm going to do the roll call again. Mr. Muniz. To approve the
yes, to approve the abatements.
Yes, thank you.
Not abatements, but yeah.
Mr. Titlebaum.
Yes.
Yeah. Mr. Tropiano.
Yes.
Myself, no. So it's 3-0.
3-1-0.
Okay. Mr. Tropiano, you're on next for a possible vote to support the House bill. Quickly, can you tell us what it is, sir?
Okay, so there's a bill in front of the to pay up to 90%, depending on how you do it, of a police or a fire station upgrade. So what would happen is if you built just a fire station, it's 75. If you build just a police station, it's 75. But if you build a police fire complex, then it's 90 is what the proposal is. And we want to write a letter in support that they pass this bill, and that, that could go a long way to helping us finally get our police station in place.
Mr. Muniz, do you have any questions or comments?
No.
Mr. Titlebaum?
No, I think it's a good thing. And if we want to send a letter recommending its passage, I think it's a good idea since it would help us.
Would. Mr. Tropiano, do you care to make a motion?
I make a motion that we send the letter to support, and I got to put my glasses back on. I'm sorry, because I can't see. That's what happens when you get old. Discussion and to support House Bill 2508 and Senate Bill 1594.
Thank you.
Order.
Is there a second?
Second, and I would note that maybe we should send this to both our state rep and our state senator, as well as whatever committee will be doing the hearing on it.
Yes, thank you. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Mr. Muniz, may I have your vote? Roll call vote.
Yes.
Mr. Teitelbaum.
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano.
Yes.
That was a yes, right?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
No, you mumbled. Okay, and myself, yes. So I will get that letter out. Okay. We need to do the bylaw review committee, but I think we're going to move that on to next week as well, because we really do have some lengthy conversations coming up. May I have a motion to ratify the hiring of 2 laborers, please?
I move we ratify the hiring of James Lunch, part-time laborer, the transfer station, and Justin Corley, a laborer for the water pollution control facility.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? I will have Mr. Muniz.
Yes.
I'll vote yes, thank you. Mr. Teitelbaum?
Yes.
Mr. Tropiano?
Yes.
Myself, yes, 4-0-0. We're going to hold off on item G. Mr. Sullivan, do you have a town administrator's report?
Yes, just quickly, 2 things. One, I think you all received the email. This week we have 50 confirmed cases of COVID-19, which is a slight dip from the previous week, and 5 probable cases. There were also 2 reported deaths from the Maven system. 35% of the confirmed cases this week that are eligible vaccine age are fully vaccinated individuals. So 65% were not vaccinated. So I know that's been some interest to folks. To move forward, I have just a quick update from Mr. McDonald, who's the Director of Public Health, and also serves as our Emergency Management Director. Good evening. On behalf of the Wareham Emergency Management Department, I would like to recognize and thank the Wareham Fire Department, Wareham Police Department, Wareham Municipal Maintenance Department, and the AD Makepeace Company for their hard work and outstanding efforts to help contain and mitigate the effects of Tropical Depression Ida. Extremely heavy rain and wind swept through the area in the early morning hours of September 2nd, 2021, dumping an incredible almost 8 inches of rain over a span of only a few hours. There were many challenges throughout that day, but the knowledge and expertise from the above mentioned groups, the situation was handled quickly and with minimal damage to property. So I appreciate Mr. McDonald, everything he did as well.
Thank you.
So thank you.
You're all set then, Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a motion to liaison and initiative reports? I think what I would like to ask you to do is, unless you have something totally pressing, that we just skip over that item. Good. The consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the payment to the law office of Richard P. Bowen?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Muniz, roll call vote.
Yes.
Mr. Teitelbaum?
Yes.
My Tropiano?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Okay. I'm now going to tell you that we are going to be going into executive session for the reasons listed on the agenda. We will not be coming back into open session. And I am now going to ask WCTV to remove everyone except for the 4 selectmen present, as well as Mr. Sullivan, from any access to this programming.